Hello, everybody. It's Alan Davidson. How are you? I just wanted to say a quick hello and let you know, yeah, I am a real person like yourself. And we're going to be starting in about 30 seconds. So please settle in. Welcome to Whole Body, Whole Being Healing. And I so really appreciate your taking your precious time and attention and energy to be here today for this. So I invite you to get the most out of it. Really bring your honed attention to this moment and to this training. And we close the door to your office, turn off your smartphone, close Facebook, close your email, and just really allow yourself to be present with this information. So that said, let's take a moment and get started, and we're going to dive right in. Okay, so this is Alan Davidson. I'm your host for today, and our training is on whole body, whole being healing. And we're going to just really just take our time and unpack that and dive into it. So I just want to make sure that you can see my screen and you can hear me. So you have a question box, a comment box there. So if you wouldn't mind just typing a Y into the box just to let me know that you can indeed hear me and that you can see my screen, that'd be great. I appreciate that. And also, I am broadcasting to you from the shadow of downtown Houston in Texas, United States of America. So I'd love for you to enter into the comment box, where you're, tuning in from, where in the world. I know people have registered for today's presentation from all over the world, every English-speaking country, just about. All right. So. Okay, I just want to confirm that you guys can really see and hear me. So please do just take a minute to type a Y into the question box there. Okay, great. Hey, thank you, Jack. Sometimes technology doesn't always cooperate with us the way that we want to, so thank you. All right, so let's dive in. It is a pleasure and privilege for me to be here with you. I am a firm believer that, contrary to what you might see in the news and hear in the news these days, that we are on a tipping point in consciousness and that the world is really going through an up-leveling. And I firmly believe that it is the enlightening people who have a rigorous healing, enlightenment, meditation, spiritual practice that are at the vanguard of moving consciousness forward, helping us evolve and transmute so much of the toxic energies that seem to be plaguing the world right now. And if you happen to be a small business owner, a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, a Tai Chi teacher, a facialist, a body worker, a psychotherapist, even a doctor or nurse, an astrologer, an intuitive, a psychic, there are many, many ways to use your healing and spiritual gifts in a small business. For those of us that make a career out of helping and uplifting and healing people, we have an incredible opportunity and responsibility. So as we are doing our own inner work to get the outer results in the world, we're also uplifting and helping other people to do their work and to heal and to grow and evolve. So it's a pleasure to be with you. So you are in the right place if you are a healer of any kind, or if you need or want healing, whether that is a physical healing, working with the actual, structures of the physical body, whether it's an emotional healing, whether, you have, character flaws that you get emotionally triggered and hijacked. by your emotions, or you need a mental healing, whether that is stinking thinking, or you have limiting beliefs that really, really hinder your experience of the world that you want to live in, or you have addictions, habits, behaviors that are, shall we say, less than magnificent, or you know that there is some sort of block in your spiritual connection to really embodying the extraordinary source energy that flows through us all the time. If you're on a rigorous and dedicated path of spiritual enlightenment, this program will also be really helpful to you. If you're really committed to waking up to your most fabulous enlightened self, your truest self, you're on a path of freeing your mind and or opening your heart and or embodying your soul, then today's program will be really beneficial to you. And then if you are really keen on boosting and perfecting and mastering your manifestation skills, whether that is manifesting specific and measurable goals around your health and well-being, your wealth and career, or making money with meaning, whether it is manifesting love, intimacy, soulmate, sexuality, spiritual connection, spiritual enlightenment, or manifesting some sort of peak performance, whether that's athletics or artistic, career, something like that. So if you're a healer of any kind or looking for a healing, whether you're on a spiritual path or you're wanting to boost your manifestation skills, what I share with you today will be very helpful. Okay, so what is in it for you? Why should you dedicate, a good 90 minutes of your precious time, energy, and attention to be here? So one, I'll say that one of the things that we're going to do today, and I didn't even mention this in the emails, or is that we're actually going to do a soul clearing and activation experience. So you're going to have the full benefit of that. We're going to cover the top 3 mistakes that I see healers make. I've been a professional healer for 29 years and been on my own spiritual path for 40 years. So what are the mistakes that I see people making over and over? And then, why our resistance keep us stuck in old chronic and painful issues, defenses, habits, and behaviors, and why they seem so seemingly impossible to change. The 5 levels of consciousness in the human body, or what I call whole body, and then what I call whole being. What are the 5 subtle spiritual realms available to us, where your current life karma is stored in your spiritual anatomy, where your past life karma is stored in your spiritual anatomy, and then what are the 5 toxic emotions that are frozen in your spiritual anatomy that help keep us driving those poor choices and habits and behaviors. So that's what we're going to cover today. How does that sound to you guys? Okay, there is a stay to the end bonus, so if you hang in there with me for the full 90 minutes of today's presentation, I am going to share a link with you. It is a specific meditation that I have used for many years. I love it. I've taught it. And it not only activates the 7 embodied chakras and begins to expedite the healing and clearing of any karmic blocks in the lower 6 chakras, but then also begins to activate and clear any past life karma and blocks. So it's a very, very powerful, it's a very simple meditation, but it's also very powerful. So I'll share the link to that with you at the end. So who am I, and why should you listen to me? Why should you care? So I've really dedicated my professional life to helping enlightening people and enlightening experts to remove the blocks to their most radiant enlightening selves, so that they can go big with their lives, so they can go big with their soul purpose, so that they can free their minds, open their hearts, embody their souls, and ultimately change our world. I am fortunate to be the midwife of a body of work called the Evolutionary Meditation, which allows people to wake up to their most fabulous enlightened self in 30, 40 minutes. I've literally had the pleasure and privilege to facilitate thousands of people at this point around the world with this practice. And about 99% of the time, people have a full-on enlightened experience, no matter what level of meditation skill that they are at when they come to the work. I am the author of Body Brilliance, Mastering Your 5 Vital Intelligences. In 2007, when the book came out, it was the #1 health and wellness book. It hit #7 on Barnes & Noble's Top 100 Books and went on to win 2 National Book of the Year awards. So I'm very, very honored and thrilled and proud of Body Brilliance. But things were not always so fabulous in my life. I moved to Houston in 1980 and went to work in the nightclub industry, particularly the gay nightclub industry, and found that my addictions or my compulsions had followed me from Dallas, and within 6 weeks of being back in Houston, I was in the party crowd, and secret that not many people knew, I was an IV drug user and really used IV drugs. Methamphetamine was my drug of choice, and really for 8 years was an IV drug user. I did get clean and sober, and in 1988 I had to find out if I had short-term plans for my life or long-term plans for my life, because in my search to say hi and anesthetize my feelings and emotions as best I could, I had actually shared needles with men who were HIV positive, and actually some of them had already died from AIDS. So when we figured out that AIDS was caused by a virus and that it was blood-borne, I just assumed I would die a very painful death. The good news is, as I found out at the end of 1988, I was and still am HIV negative. Even though I had rolled the dice, I had played Russian roulette with my life. And I left the clinic after learning the news that I was HIV negative, feeling like Spirit had rested her hand on my shoulder and spared me for something. At that time, I didn't know what, but 6 months later, I found myself in massage school and beginning a long, long journey of healing for myself as a clean and sober person and as a body worker. And so I, until recently, actually until this month, was on the board of directors of the Center for Integral Wisdom with Ken Wilber, John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, and a number of other luminaries. What I was attracted to about working with this board of directors was that every single person here was committed to transforming the source code of consciousness, of what can we do to go in at the subtle energy field of consciousness and help to heal and clear and activate the source code for humanity. And so I was on the board for a couple of years there. So I promised you to give you my absolute best for 90 minutes. I've shoehorned, at this point, over 40 years, actually, of spiritual study into today's training. It's really the leading edge of my work and my understanding of consciousness and healing. And for those of you that are interested, there definitely will be an invitation to go deeper. So let's start with healing and what I mean by healing. So the healing is the process of making or becoming sound, healthy, or whole again. It's the sense that whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, morally, or spiritually, there is something that's broken or incomplete or not whole. And the ultimate goal of healing is to be healed and whole. So at the fundamental level, healing is really about restoring, activating, clearing anything at the physical, emotional, mental, moral, or spiritual level. But also, for me, another way of describing being whole and complete, being healed and whole and complete, is to be fully enlightened, to be fully embodied. And, that is what I call, the revolutionary enlightenment. To be fully enlightened, fully embodied is to be whole, to be complete at every level of our body, every level of our being. Now, another way to say the same thing is to, at a spiritual level, be an incredibly high frequency. This is a chart from David Hawkins. And it's the idea that, he explained that we have a frequency from, 0 to 1,000, and that at a certain point, particularly at a level of 500 or above, we're vibrating at a very high frequency. So another way of saying whole and healed, or fully enlightened, fully embodied, is to be living every day at the incredibly high frequency of 500 or above. And 500 is that transition into love. And all the master healers in the history of the world, as far as we know, were able to transcend their left brain thinking, small ego brain and mind, and tap into and channel the incredible unconditional love of source energy. So I use these terms interchangeably: healed and whole, being clear of any disease or dysfunction at the physical, emotional, mental, moral, or spiritual level, being fully enlightened, fully embodied, or just being able to exist and live at a really high frequency, and then to manifest with real intention and to change your world. And of course, when you're vibrating at a very high frequency, you're also working with the universal laws and divine right timing and divine right order. So I just want to, I talk a lot about evolution. And so, modern humans, as we understand them, and moving, in the mammalian family and the primate family, modern humans, as we understand them, appeared about 200,000 years ago. The first evolutionary mystics appeared somewhere back in time between 7,000 years ago and 2,400 years ago. They were the very first flowering of human consciousness, the real great first spiritual masters who could talk about the universal laws and spiritual reality and share that truth with other people and uplift them and help them transform and to heal. Now, we're going through what I call an evolutionary spurt, which, evolution is full of those kinds of spurts. We'll go for a very, very long period of just sort of very slowly evolving and changing and growing. And then at a certain point, there'll be this quickening that'll happen. And within a short amount of time, there'll be an explosion of transformation and change. And I believe that human consciousness is going through one of those right now. We've gone from, the first peaking of humans as we know them 200,000 years ago. And in the last 100 years, certainly here are some prime examples, certainly not all of them, of evolutionary mystics that had a huge impact on the last century. And then here are just some examples of modern evolutionary mystics. And these are just people that I've happened to have followed and studied closely with over the years. There are many, many more fully enlightened, fully embodied evolutionary mystics who are teaching in the world. Okay. All right. So, my wish for you is to find your whole body, whole being healing, whatever you're looking for and needing, or to step into your fully enlightened, fully embodied evolutionary mystic, and to live consistently at a really high frequency. So let's start to unpack that by what I mean by whole body. So in Body Brilliance, I introduced, something that has been very clear for me as a body worker, as a massage therapist for 29 years now. And it's the idea that we have these 5 vital intelligences. If you happen to know your tantric philosophy or your yogic philosophy, this is inspired by the 5 koshas, or the 5 layers of consciousness in the body. And the physical intelligence is really about the bones, the muscles, and the connective tissues. And the densest level of consciousness that we have in the physical body. The second level of consciousness is the emotional intelligence, and that is the heart, the digestive system, and the reproductive systems, and all the liquids in the body. It is our emotions in the brain centers, and it is our hormonal systems. So this is emotional intelligence, and there are so many different issues that happen to us health-wise and healing-wise at this level of consciousness. And then there is the mental intelligence, and that is the brain itself, the neural patterns in our brain, the nervous system itself, and then the lungs of the body, our ability to breathe. And you can just think in terms of how our breath impacts the clarity of our thinking. Now, also to me is the unconscious, conscious, and superconscious minds, and how we, on the evolutionary journey, integrate those. Moral intelligence, when people think about moral IQ, they think about, the 10 Commandments, or, the laws and ethics and morals and things like that. But really it is about our ability to discern and make choices, and particularly make conscious choices. So many of our choices are unconscious. So many of our choices date back to that period when we were babies and children, and we were complete sponges, and we were absorbing the demands and commands of our parents and our families and the communities that we lived in. And so many of the things that we absorb, the beliefs, the feelings, the experiences, are still driving our choices today. So moral intelligence is really about becoming conscious and making wise and conscious choices. And then the spiritual intelligence is really, who we are at soul level and spiritual level. So when I talk about whole body, I'm talking about physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual intelligences, at who we are at these 5 levels. And you can sense, that there are health problems at each of these levels. That, we can have physical problems, injuries to our bones and our muscles and our connective tissues. We have emotional problems and problems with the heart and digestion and reproduction. We have problems with mental health, the brain and the nervous system, the lungs. We have problems with at the moral level, which is really our habits, our behaviors, our addictions, our compulsions. And then there are problems at the spiritual level. That lack of connection to source energy and that feeling of depression and helplessness that can come from that. Okay, so that's whole body. So now let's actually look at whole being. And it really is sort of double clicking and unpacking that spiritual intelligence. Who are we at soul level? What is the spiritual anatomy that encompasses, who we're being? So this is a map of the spiritual anatomy that I love, and it actually comes from ancient India. It comes from the Kriya Yoga tradition, if you know the work of Yogananda and the autobiography of Yogi and his lineage dating from Babaji. This map of consciousness dates back to the Rishi ashrams and the Rishi saints and sages and poets who actually wrote the Rig Vedas, which are one of the oldest spiritual texts in the history of the world. Now, it has been updated and overlaid, particularly with some of the Mediterranean traditions, the Hermetic traditions of Greece, and the tradition of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. So it's sort of been updated and modernized in a Western way. So the first spiritual realm is the incarnate self in its chakras 1, 2, and 3, its dimensions 1, 2, and 3. And this is our conscious mind. It's our waking, everyday thinking. It's the physical, emotional, and mental dimensions of consciousness. Now, the lower self, the lower 3 chakras, communicates with sensation, with emotion, and with thought. And when we make that shift from the lower 3 chakras into the 4th chakra and higher, into the soul self and higher, then the soul self communicates with light, color, sound, and symbol. So it's an important distinction. We move from sensation and emotion and thought into another realm of communication. I also just want to share with you that 94% of the world's population lives in these 3 lower dimensions. They can't strategically or intentionally move to a higher experience, to a higher dimension, to a higher level of consciousness. So for all practical purpose, the evolution of most of humanity is still stuck in these lower 3 dimensions. When we move from the 3rd chakra, the 3rd dimension, into the 4th dimension, the 4th chakra, the heart, it is a paradigm shift in consciousness, a major thing. We move into the soul self. The spiritual realm is the soul self. We do move into the dream world, the unconscious mind. And that chakras 4, 5, and 6, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Dimension 4 is what we would normally call the soul or the spiritual realm. Dimension number 5 is the archetypal realm, again, the collective unconscious. And chakra number 6, dimension number 6, is the angelic realm. Now, moving from chakra number 6 to chakra number 7 is, again, another major paradigm shift in consciousness. It is a huge evolutionary feat. Only a small percentage of the human beings in the history of the world have actually been able to strategically evolve above chakra number 6. And that's moving into dimensions number 7, 8, and 9. The spiritual realm is called the oversoul self. It's still the unconscious mind. Somewhere between less than and 1% of the world's population can strategically, intentionally shift into this area of consciousness or has embodied this level of consciousness. So, okay. This is the morphogenetic field, and we'll talk more about this realm of consciousness in a few minutes. Now, the thing that I want to say with you is, you've heard about your auric field, and so the subtlest energetic membrane of your soul, of your auric field, who you are at soul level, actually ends at chakra number 9, dimension number 9. So you can just imagine that sacred geometry, that sacred flower, is actually, each of those circles is a facet. And there are 617 of those facets that make up your auric field of golden liquid light. When we move into dimensions 10, 11, 12, chakras 10, 11, 12, this spiritual realm is called the avatar self. We move into superconscious mind. This is classic enlightenment in the Eastern traditions. This is the first time all the lower chakras from 1 to 9, there is still some either dominant or primary experience of the self, or moving to a very, very subtle experience of, oh, I'm still me, even though I'm in this very, very expanded, relaxed, state. When you move into dimension 10, into chakra 10, you move into classic enlightenment. This is technically, in the spiritual realms, this is the empty witness or the pure witness or the supreme witness. This is the first marker of enlightenment for all sort of mindfulness practices. And it's the avatar self. All of the great evolutionary mystics from history, from Jesus, the Buddha, Lord Krishna, Lao Tzu, all the great teachers that have had an impact on our world, were accessing and embodying the frequency of this level of consciousness, the avatar self. And then the final realm, spiritual realm, is the Rishi self. Again, named for the Rishi saints and sages and poets that really have mapped these amazing levels of consciousness. And this is, again, the superconscious realm. This is the experience of oneness. It's not, oh, I am infinite and I'm witnessing and watching, but it's like, no, I am infinity, and I'm also all things that arise in infinity. I'm all the created universes. I'm all the galaxies and the planets, and I'm all the bodies and the beings. I am one with all things. And that is dimensions 13, 14, and 15, and chakra 14 and 15. So again, that spiritual anatomy is all 15 chakras, all 15 dimensions, all 5 spiritual realms, and that all makes up the time-space matrix that we understand. Infinity, and then time and space that arises within infinity. So when I talk about whole being, it is those 5 spiritual realms, 15 dimensions, and 15 chakras. So when you put those together, whole body and whole being, it means healing and whole at all 5 levels of the body and all 15 dimensions, all 15 levels of the spirit. So, that is a understanding of who we are in our extraordinariness and our fabulousness. And so, consciously evolving, growing, healing, at this entire level, it is the big picture of healing. So let's talk about your current life karma and why it seems so difficult to change who we are. That no matter what our best intentions are, no matter what goals that we set for ourselves, whether they're physical or emotional or mental or spiritual, or whether it's around our health and well-being, or whether it's around work or career, or whether it's around the most important intimate relationships in our life, it doesn't matter. What are the things that keep us from embodying our magnificence, embodying our most radiant fabulousness, our truest evolutionary mystic, and keep us yanking us back, hijacking us, keeping us crippled into old ways of thinking and believing and being in the world. So the thing to understand that for an evolutionary mystic, for somebody who is healed and whole, who is fully enlightened and fully embodied, and a distinction I want to make is so many of the spiritual masters that we study, they definitely had spiritual enlightenment, but they didn't always have, say, a physical enlightenment or an emotional or a mental or even a moral enlightenment. So let me give you an example. So in the past, you've probably heard, you've probably noticed that one of the things that plagues many, many spiritual teachers is that they sleep with their students, or they have affairs with their students, or, there's this whole sort of shadow sexuality thing in the spiritual world. Well, that's a signal that somebody can have a real, enlightenment and can even transmit great Shakti or Chi or Prana or life force energy at the spiritual realm, but they are, as of yet, unenlightened at the emotional or the moral stage. The choices that they're making do not reflect the higher frequency that they have at the spiritual realm. But so when I say a pure being, it's somebody who is genuinely mastering and working with all five, whole body, whole being. So for someone who exists in that incredible state of presence and consciousness, they are able to experience the moment fully without any resistance. There's no contraction, there's no resistance. So the energy of the moment simply, passes through them without any blocks, without any resistance. And it's just, if you think about Ram Dass, and he wrote this book, Be Here Now, or Rumi, one of the great Sufi poets, used the term welcome every moment, every day as a beloved friend. Byron Katie talks about loving what is, loving reality just as it is. I think in terms of celebrating the moment, celebrating at every level the moment that has arisen for us. And it's that ability to be present and then allow the energy of reality to move through without any contraction, any resistance. Now, for those of you that are committed to activism and changing the world, this is the most effective, practical place to be, because if you are in this amazing conscious space, you are able to truly be in alignment and harmony with the universal laws, and to be of service to your neighbor, your friend, the person standing next to you who needs healing and needs comfort. But what happens for most of us is that we have resistance. And so there are places in the energy anatomy that we have contracted, where we have squeezed off the movement of source energy. We've pinched it, we've blocked it. And so instead of a moment flowing through, completely through us without any resistance, we have said in some way, I'm going to argue with reality. I don't like this. I wish it were different. I have a preference. You're not good. You're bad. This situation is bad. And so at the purely energetic, spiritual level, we start to not only contract and resist, but then energy gets frozen. It gets stuck in our energy body. And over years, layers and layers and layers of resisted, contracted light. I just call it frozen light. You can call it karma. You can call it blocks. I call it frozen light. It gets stuck in your energy anatomy. And that is the source. This frozen light in the energy is the source of all compulsions and addictions, all limiting beliefs, all poor choices, all toxic emotions, all problems with your health and your well-being, your cash flow, your relationships, your performance. This frozen light is the source of that. So I want to just take a moment and give you a metaphor. So this is a moth. It's a very beautiful moth. And the moth is born as this caterpillar, and then it weaves these cocoons. Now, what's unique about this particular moth is that the cocoons, the threads that it secretes to weave these cocoons, are some of the strongest fibers in the known universe. This is a silkworm, and this is the moth that emerges from a cocoon. So not only is silk one of the most beautiful fabrics that we have, but it is also one of the strongest. And so the moth, the caterpillar, as it goes through its transmutation into the moth, has to break through the strongest cocoon to be able to emerge and to live fully in its life. So I love that metaphor of the caterpillar living in its cocoon and then having to break through into its magnificence, its beauty, its fabulousness, its most enlightened state, its most healed and whole state. Now, what's the parallel journey for us as human beings? Well, unlike the caterpillar that lives its life and eats lots of leaves and greenery and things like that, and then goes through a different stage of development to begin weaving that cocoon, I think in terms of most of us as human beings start weaving our cocoons even when we're still in the fetus, when we're still in the womb of our mothers, because every fetus feels, senses, and feels the emotions of everything that the mother feels. And so when we're born, most of us are born beautiful, happy, joyful children. But then at a certain point, no matter how loving, no matter how careful our parents are, there comes a point, a circumstance, when we are hungry or tired or scared, and the experience of that is too much to take. And that is a pivotal moment in the psyche of a baby, of a child, and we've all gone through it. And we're not able to be present in the moment and receive the flow of energy, the fear, the pain, the discomfort is too overwhelming, and several things happen. One, the psyche itself, the soul itself, splits, it shatters. And that shattering of the psyche, the parts that can be metabolized and dealt with are fine, but the ones that are suppressed and repressed are locked into the energy body. And that's that first layer of frozen energy, the first layer of karma, the first layer of blocks at the energy anatomy. This is also where the different personas or parts or voices or subpersonalities, this is the essential birth of the many different parts or voices. An example of a persona would be the innocent and vulnerable child, or the inner critic, or the pusher, or the protector, or the controller, or the manager, or the wounded self. Those are examples of different personas, and most of us have at least 100 or more that have been or are functional in our consciousness. Each of these personas make up our ego or our mask. They're all fear-based, and their number one job is survival. Is to make sure that we survive, that we are safe and protected, and that we get the love and connection and intimacy that we crave and want, so that we do survive. Those are the essential job descriptions of all of the personas of the ego, the voices or parts of the self. So your spiritual anatomy holds the source of all the blocks and all the personas. And then all those personas, all those voices, all those parts are fueled by different toxic emotions and limiting beliefs that are also stored. And so this is where your five intelligences comes in very handy, because not only is the source of that frozen liquid light in the spiritual anatomy, but that appears at every level of your being. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So say that you have a belief about, say, money, a belief that rich people are greedy, or rich people are arrogant, or something like that. You know, from your life experience, that's what you came to believe, or that's what you were taught. Another limiting belief could be that, oh, relationships are hard, or relationships never work out. You know, that's why you're alone, or that you never meet Mr. or Mrs. Right. So a limiting belief like that shapes your reality. It drives some of the different personas or voices. That's stored at the spiritual level as frozen light. At the mental level, there are neural pathways that actually are woven based on that continual spiral of thinking and the belief that that series of thoughts and those beliefs are actually held in place by different emotions, usually painful emotions. That combination then drives different choices that you make, different habits that you develop, different beliefs and the way they express themselves in your choices and habits and behaviors and your decisions. And ultimately, all of that actually impacts the way that you stand in your body, you experience your body, and the habitual way that you hold your body. And so it actually gets wired into the connective tissue. So Carolyn Mace used the term, once your biography becomes your biology. And that's what she's talking about, is that, you know, the story that you live by, that you tell yourself, that you believe to be true about you and your life, gets basically wired into all five levels here. So the art and science of healing is, how do we clear all levels of being, all levels of awareness, or whole body and whole being. So I promised to share with you sort of what are the different emotions stored at the seven chakras that drive these personas, that drive these stories that we believe about ourselves and tell about ourselves. So those, the 6 lower chakras, the incarnate self and the soul self, really store these toxic emotions. The first chakra is primarily fear, and it drives all the personas that are associated with anxiety, overstressed, overwhelmed, helplessness, despair, those parts of yourself. The emotion that is stored at the second chakra and in the second dimension is really, it's desire, disappointment, craving, lust, wanting, and the not getting those desires. And those are the personas, the voices that are driven and held in place at this level, are those parts of you that desire love, attention, and appreciation, and the lengths that you will go to get those things, and then to, you know, acquire things, desire things and acquire things. The emotion that is stored in the third chakra and the third dimension is anger, resentment, fury, rage. And this is really about dominance and power in the three-dimensional world. And so all the voices around superiority, pride, vanity, power, bullying, that sort of thing, as well as the polar opposite, which is the voices of being a victim, of being taken advantage of, being a doormat, being a people pleaser. So all those voices are all anchored in this chakra. Chakra number 4 is guilt and shame. And the personas that are held here, the important distinction between guilt and shame is guilt is still the thought that, oh, I did something bad. And then there is the shame is I am bad. So it's here in the heart center where the belief that I'm bad, I'm broken, I'm wounded, I'm incomplete, I am not good enough, what St. Augustus called original sin. You know, all the personas that are associated with I'm incomplete, I'm not good enough, I need another achievement to feel better about myself, I need another achievement, I need another certification, I need another training, I need another teacher to be complete. All anchored here. The 5th chakra is the emotions of grief and sadness, despair, and I'm sorry, I've just been actually surrendering and experiencing a whole lot of grief in the last week. I just found out that one of the great loves of my life is dead. And so, sorry, just talking about grief brought up a lot of emotion. The thing that I want to say at the spiritual level, if you think in terms of the spirit moving from the pure white light of consciousness at the Rishi realm and working its way down through the different dimensions and the different chakras, when the spirit actually moves from the 6th chakra into the 5th chakra and lower, there is that movement from light and into the 5th chakras are also the 5 elements: water, earth, fire, air, and ether. And so when the spirit moves into the ether element at the throat chakra and really becomes anchored into 3D reality, there is oftentimes a grief and a sadness about having lost the freedom in the infinity and the spaciousness and the unconditional love of the spiritual realms. And so there can often be grief that's held from moving from the spirit realm into the 3D, as well as all the different griefs and sadness and losses that you've experienced in this life, whether that is a beloved grandmother or parent or grandparent or friend or mentor or teacher, or even if it's, you know, moving from a favorite home or losing a favorite bicycle or a favorite pet or something like that. All that sort of is stored there in the 5th chakra. Now, the 6th chakra is not really a toxic emotion, but what I find is that with people that really, there's a lot of confusion, particularly around, oh, what's my soul purpose? What's the meaning of my life? Who am I supposed to be? Who do I want to be when I grow up? That kind of lack of spiritual clarity and spiritual connection is experienced as confusion. So the thing I want to say about your current life karma and karmic blocks, those are all trapped in those lower 6 chakras. The frozen light is stored in the energy body, chakras 1 through 6, and all the personas, all the voices, all the subpersonalities of your psyche are all anchored in at the lower 6 chakras, and those are all driven by those different subtle qualities of emotions. And, sometimes it's not the experience of terror, but it can be the experience of stress. Or it's not the experience of, rage, but it can be the experience of resentment that drives a voice. Or it can be, maybe it's not shame, but it can be, oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm feeling embarrassed or humiliated here. Maybe it's not, full-on depression and grief, but it's like, oh, there's a sadness that's driving this choice. So your current life karma is accumulated and stored in these lower 6 dimensions and lower 6 chakras. And so, part of healing and wholeness and spiritual evolution and enlightenment is about clearing away all the ways that you have resisted your life, suppressed, escaped, repressed, spewed and vented, as opposed to just surrendering to the moment. Now let's talk about your past life karma. I happen to subscribe to the idea of reincarnation, and that a soul, and that there's some part of my consciousness that moves lifetime to lifetime, incarnation to incarnation, body to body. The ancient, the Sufis, the mystics from the Islamic tradition talked about the distillation of energy into matter itself, and the evolution of energy into matter, the evolution of matter into mineral, the evolution of mineral into vegetable, the evolution of vegetable into animal, the evolution of animal into man, and the evolution of man into angel. And so, what is that, that part of you that moves body to body, incarnation to incarnation, in the great evolution of your consciousness? So, coming back to the oversoul self, that subtle realm of the oversoul, that chakra 7, 8, and 9. Chakra 7 is the pineal gland in your brain. Chakra number 8 is the thymus gland above your heart. And then chakra number 9 is the thalamus gland, also in your brain. And those are dimension 7, 8, and 9. And this is the realm, this is the energetic sphere. This is, again, the very, very unconscious. It's associated with deep, deep sleep. This is the realm that you visit every night when you go into non-REM sleep. And so your past life karma, the things that were unresolved in your previous lives that you contracted to work on and to heal and clear in this life, is all stored in here. So the source of all this karma is found in this field. Now what's interesting is if you didn't have enough to deal with all the stuff from your current life to process, is that about every between 5 and 7 years, a portal opens between the 6th chakra and the 7th chakra, and a certain amount of that karmic debris, that frozen light, moves from the chakra 7, 8, and 9 in that morphogenetic field, and it drops down into the lower 6 dimensions, the lower 6 chakras, the spiritual anatomy, to be healed and processed. And so it's like, your soul is doing double duty at that point, because it's still trying to deal with the circumstances of life in the moment, heal and clear any suppressed and repressed stuff that's stored physically, emotionally, mentally, morally, and spiritually. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now here's a whole flood of karma or blocks that have to be dealt with. Now your choice in that moment is, okay, can I surrender to it and process it and heal it and let it go, or does it get repressed and suppressed, and does it get added to those other layers of frozen liquid light? So that is where your past life karma resides. And this definitely clearing at this level, healing at this level, it takes a certain level of maturity, sophistication, strength, and presence. Because when you start telling spirit, bring it on, I'm ready to start really moving into my magnificence, I'm really starting to embody my evolutionary mystic, then it is like, boom. Spirit's going to say, okay, you asked for it, now handle it. And your choice is, can I be present to all that emotion, all that experience, all that energy, and can I let it move through me unobstructed? Or do I get triggered? Do I suppress it and repress it? Do I try to escape it? Do I rely on my old compulsions and addictions and habits and behaviors to deny it? So, you know, it takes that's why we talk about spiritual practice. That's why we talk about the evolution of the soul, because to be able to consciously function at this level and to invoke and to really strategically, intentionally heal energy blocks or karmic blocks at this level, you have got to be really present physically, emotionally, mentally, morally, spiritually, and it's a magnificent thing. And once you really get that, then it's spectacular, because the process just goes on automatic. If you can be present in every moment, surrender to every moment, and release all the energy and all the emotions and all the experiences that have been locked in your psyche, it starts happening automatically. It's fantastic. It's an amazing thing to witness. So again, when we talk about healed and whole body, whole being, we're talking about the same thing as fully enlightened, fully embodied, and living your life at an incredibly high frequency of embodied love, being a constant open source of unconditional love in your life and your world. So when I think in terms of healing, you know, as 29 years as a professional healer at this point, I graduated from massage school 29 years ago this month. I think in terms of, you know, it's the sense that that evolutionary mystic is already always awake and a part of you. It just hasn't been activated yet for most of us. And then once we activate it and access it, it's like, how do we clear away all the blocks that keep me from embodying that and living it 24/7? And so it's clearing the source of those blocks and then peeling all the layers, physically, emotionally, mentally, morally, and spiritually, the residue of those blocks. So when I think in terms of my own personal practice and what I teach my students and my clients, it's always to activate and clear, clear and activate. Activate your evolutionary mystic, that part of you that has the skills of the empty witness and the stillness of pure being and the oneness of consciousness, that has the skills of the sword of compassion and the unconditional love of the Divine Mother, and that is embodying those skills so that it gives you the strength and stamina to be present to all of these energies and emotions and karmic blocks that have been stuck in your system, so that you can be present to them and let them go. So activate your most fabulous enlightened self, activate your evolutionary mystic, and then clear all the blocks that keep you from that. It's another way of saying healing all the things physically, with your health, emotionally, with your heart, mentally, with your mind, morally, with your choices, addictions, compulsions, habits, and behaviors, and then spiritually, you know, bringing all of that into wholeness. Okay, so I want to let's see, share an experience. So I'm going to see, I'm going to see. Judith, you're on again. I'm going to just check and see. Judith, are you available to be a partner with me for this?
Certainly. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. I didn't know Judith was going to be here, and she didn't know I was going to ask her. So this is totally spontaneous here. But so thank you for allowing me to call on you and volunteering to be here. So everyone, what I want to do is I want to share an experience of activating all 15 dimensions, all 15 chakras, all 5 subtle spiritual realms of your consciousness, and then beginning to clear some of the blocks that keep you from activating all of your, divine energies, soul energies. So I'm going to actually guide us through a process to do that. And so just so that you know, I'm going to just sort of tell you what I'm going to do and what we're going to go through it, and then you're going to experience it. So we'll give your thinking mind a little bit of a break so it understands what's going to happen. So one, there are ways of connecting to and checking with the higher self. Now I use a process that's called reading energy signatures that allows me to get yes and no answers from superconscious mind. It also allows me to track, the processes that we're going through to see what, not only for me and for Judith, but for everybody in the group, how the process is sort of shifting energetically at soul level. Now, another way that you could do that is with muscle testing or with dowsing. Those are 2 other really good bodies of work, if they're done properly, that you can track this work. Then we're going to activate this sacred symbol. Remember I said that the higher self from chakras 4 through 15, dimensions 4 through 15, communicate with light, color, sound, and symbol. So this is what's called a Trivecca code, and we're going to activate you at all the levels of your spiritual anatomy. Then I'm going to check and see if there are any blocks that hinder us from activating your divine soul energies. I predict there will be. And I will check and see if there's any personas, any subpersonalities or voices or parts that are hindering and blocking. And I predict that there probably will be. And so I will go through a process of using this sacred symbol, the sacred breath and intention to clear the source of those personas, clear the source of any other blocks that keep us from activating our divine soul energies. And then once we have removed the priority layers, the first layers that hinder us, then we'll actually do an activation. So Judith, how does that sound?
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
All right, great. All right, so Judith is really just going to be my partner, but she is being your voice. She is being the voice for the collected group, everyone that is here now and everyone that will, listen to this. So, so I invite you to, really just for the next few minutes, close out any distractions that you might have and just allow yourself to open to an experience at who you are at all of your soul level, and experience this clearing. And then we'll have a few minutes to check in afterwards. So let me just check in here. Superconscious mind. Connecting to the superconscious mind of everybody who is listening to my voice and to everyone that will hear my voice. Okay, beautiful. All right. And superconscious mind, it is, I have permission to share this soul clearing and activation experience with everybody listening to my voice and everybody who will listen to my voice? Yes. All right. So that's the permission that I need to go ahead for all of us and connecting to all of your higher selves. All right, so Judith and everyone, just take a moment and really look at this symbol here. And just take a moment looking at that infinity symbol shimmering in platinum light and that small sphere that surrounds it there, and the three larger interconnecting spheres that encompass it. And just take a moment and just sense the sort of shifting of the platinum light and color. And then everybody, when you're ready, closing your eyes and now seeing this sacred symbol in your mind's eye, sensing that infinity symbol shimmering in platinum light, held in that small platinum shimmering sphere. And then the three interlocking spheres around that. And so Judith, when you see that in your mind's eye, please let me know.
Okay, I can see it.
Okay, great. And just sensing for the group, just another moment to allowing everyone else to sort of really get a sense of that in their mind's eye. And then everyone, and Judith, with your breath and your intention, moving that sacred symbol down the chakra line. And with your breath, moving that sacred symbol out of your body into the surface of the earth. And with your breath and your intention, keep moving it down through the layers and layers of the earth, all the way to the 13th chakra, the 13th dimension of your consciousness, which is the molten core of the earth herself. And sense this sacred symbol of infinity now saturated with the molten, fiery, fertile energy of the earth's core. And when that feels complete for you, just let me know.
It's complete.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. And that feels good for the group. And now everyone, with your breath and your intention, breathing that sacred symbol from the earth's core up through the layers and layers of the earth, out through the earth's surface, back into the pelvic bowl of your body, illuminating the sacrum and the coccyx bone, the hara, the solar plexus, and coming to rest in your heart. And sense every level of your being, every level of your body, illuminated now with this fiery light of the earth's core, and sense that sacred symbol in the center of your heart center. And when that feels complete, let me know.
It feels complete.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. And now with your breath and your intention, moving this sacred symbol up the chakra line, through the throat, the third eye, the crown chakra, out the top of your head, and actually 36 inches above your head to the 14th chakra, the 14th dimension, and sense this sacred symbol in the belly of a star burning as furiously, as brightly as 10,000 suns. and sense this sacred symbol now illuminated with the purest gold and white light of consciousness itself, burning away all that is not in alignment with the highest universal good. And let me know when that feels complete.
It's complete.
All right. And just a moment more for the group. And there we go. And now, everyone, with your breath and your intention, breathing that sacred symbol down through the crown of your head, illuminating your crown, illuminating your mind's eye, illuminating your throat, illuminating your heart center. And now sensing every level of your awareness, every level of your being, whole body, whole being, illuminated with the light of 10,000 suns. And when that feels complete, let me know.
It's complete.
All right. Superconscious mind, for everyone listening to my voice and will listen to my voice, there are blocks that hinder the activation of all divine soul energies to 100% of their capacity. Yes. Superconscious mind, there are personas that hinder the activation of all divine soul energies to 100% of their capacity. Yes. All right, everyone, taking a deep breath. You can look at the sacred symbol again or just see it in your mind's eye, sense it in your heart. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath be used to activate the source of all personas that hinder the activation of all divine soul energies to 100% of their capacity now. And that activation of those personas now complete for the group. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath used to merge these personas with their polar opposite sub-identities, voices, or parts. And that merging complete for the group. It is commanded in the name of divine love, the golden liquid realms and the alchemical powers, that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath be used to merge these activated personas with their fully enlightened, fully embodied Rishi selves. Now. And that merging with the Rishi selves complete. It is commanded in the name of divine love that these personas now surrendering and submitting to the highest universal good for them and for everyone involved. And that these personas surrendering to the infinite resources and infinite skills of these fully enlightened, fully embodied Rishi selves. Now. And the energy moving for the group. There we go. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath be used to clear the primary job description of survival, safety, and protection of these personas, and surrender that job description of survival to the fully enlightened, fully embodied Rishi selves. And it is commanded in the name of divine love that these personas be invited to take on a new job description, the activation of all available divine soul energies from here on in the eternal present. All right. Superconscious mind, there are more personas that hinder the activation of divine soul energies. No. So I just want to take a moment and check in with Judith. And for those of you who are listening and watching around the world, if you want to enter something into the comment box about what you're sensing, what you noticed during that, the healing and integration and transformation of the personas. So Judith, what did you sense? What did you notice?
Well, I felt many things, and I would say sort of coming towards the end, I started feeling a lot of light, love, connection, a feeling of wholeness and oneness, and just lots of this very pure light and the peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, great. Well, let's just sort of move on with the clearing and activation, and then we can sort of take some more time to unpack that. So, okay, superconscious mind, there are more blocks that hinder the activation of available divine soul energies. Yes. And just as a demonstration, superconscious mind, those primary blocks are stored in chakras 1 through 6. No. Superconscious mind, those blocks are stored in chakras and dimensions 7 through 9. Yes. All right, so just take a moment if you want to look at the screen and see that sacred symbol again, or just imagine it in your mind's eye, in your heart center. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath be used to clear the source of all blocks and clear the source of all energies and emotions that drive those blocks, that hinder the activation of available divine soul energies to 100% capacity, and that the source of all these be evolved and transmuted into their true essence of gold and liquid light. And that every level of awareness, every level of being, whole body, whole being, flow freely and completely in the infinite ocean of divine light and love now. And the energy starting to move for the group. Energy moving from the tips of the fingers through the fingers to the pad, to the palm of the hand, to the heel of the hand, and up into the wrist. So those first priority layers of karmic blocks have peeled away. Superconscious mind, there are more blocks that hinder the activation of divine soul energies. No. So that's sort of the first sort of clearing part, clearing the personas, clearing the priority karmic blocks. And now let's activate those divine soul energies. So Judith and everyone, I like to just sort of put the palms of my hands on the hara, just underneath the belly button. It is commanded in the name of divine love that all available divine soul energies, all 128 frequencies of divine soul energy, be activated to 100% of their capacity, and that these divine soul energies be downloaded, integrated, manifested, and embodied with elegance and ease. Now, and just breathing in to the hara. Just imagine breathing in the light of 10,000 suns, completely illuminating every level of your awareness, every level of your being. All right, the hara complete, moving to the heart. Place a hand on your heart. And now breathing in that light of 10,000 suns into your heart. There we go. And now head, breathing in, illuminating the third eye, pituitary gland, pineal gland, thalamus gland, with the light of 10,000 suns. There we go. And just, I like to extend my hands to heaven. Hara, heart, head, heaven. And now breathing that light of 10,000 suns to the entire chakra line. All 15 chakras, all 15 dimensions now illuminated with the light of 10,000 suns. All right. That's the first sort of priority activation there. So just know that this process of clearing and activation will really continue for the next 72 hours. So just really tune in, notice what you sense, what you feel. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you're sensing, what you're noticing. Write something into the comment box about how that experience was for you, and I'll check in with Judith here.
Well, when you said the part about going into the seventh, eighth, and ninth chakra for the clearing, my head sort of shifted the way it does, with a chiropractor, and I just felt this sound and feeling and movement all at once.
Yeah, beautiful.
And yeah, and yeah, I mean, I definitely am feeling, um, a lot of sort of previous life activity coming in, and to know that to just allow it to be and surrender
Hmm.
to it and not resist and let it flow through me. So,
Yeah, beautiful. And I just want to say, it's so easy to, the left brain thinking mind loves to tell stories and weave stories and get all wrapped up in, oh, what's that about? And what was that past life? And the key is to not let that part of yourself, because that's another way of resisting and avoiding is when we move into thinking. So what Judith was saying about just letting the energy be there, let the emotions be there, let the experiences be there, and just surrender them with the breath and let them go over and over. And every breath, let go, let go. Because thinking is another way of escaping the experience in a way. Um, Thank you. And what Judith described about her neck, sort of, feeling like she'd been to the chiropractor, I call that a spontaneous adjustment. And that's a beautiful example of how clearing at the energetic level can actually have an impact and effect on the purely physical, that physical intelligence, the bones, the vertebrae, the muscles, the connective tissues that hold the spine. And so, when we really release something energetically, it can very quickly move all the way through the physical level too. So, all right. Well,
thank
anything
you.
else, Judith?
No, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Okay, so let's see if anybody else has added and shared anything about their experience. So let's see. Dr. Jennis has grounded and connected. Thank you so much. Anybody else typed anything in? Okay, great. All right, well, let's just move on in and land the plane here. So I wanted to just sort of circle back around now that we sort of had an experience, I've sort of laid the groundwork of what we did. And here's the healing mistake that I see so many healers or people, seeking their own healing make. And one is they focus on the symptom as opposed to the source of the problem. And let me give you an example. So one of my good friends, Chris, is a bodybuilder. And at one point, he injured his shoulder. And he went to chiropractors, he went to physical therapists, he went to body workers, sports massage therapists, all trying to heal his shoulder so he could get back to the gym and get back to working out. But nothing really seemed to help, and there was just such pain. He could barely lift the weights, up above his shoulder level. And he finally came in for a polarity healing session. Now, polarity is a form of energy medicine. It's working with the energy fields that we've talked about. And it turned out that there was a okay, Hunter. That's Hunter. That's my 10-year-old boxer here. He's protecting us all, keeping us safe. But Chris, it turned out there was an imbalance in the air element of his energy field. And so, and the energy points there are the connection between the ankle, the kidneys, and the shoulder. And it's about the air element in the lungs. And just 3 little polarity treatments to really help to balance not only the air element, but the other elements in his body and do a chakra tune-up. After 3 sessions, the pain in his shoulder that had given him problem for 7 months was completely gone. So, Dr. Stone, the founder of polarity therapy, said you always clear the source at the energy level of a problem first, and then do any sort of mechanical adjustments or healing at the physical body that you want to. So that's an example of, Chris was focusing on the symptom of shoulder pain, instead of dealing with the energetic imbalance in his energy anatomy. The second mistake that I see people make is that, they'll go and they'll get a Reiki session, or they'll get a healing touch session. They'll do some Kundalini healing. They'll work with the energy system, and they actually can do a clearing, and they are able to clear the source of an issue. But then they get frustrated or disappointed when they don't have that miracle cure, because you not only need to clear the source of an issue, but then you need to go and say, okay, where is that arising in my habits and choices, in my thinking, in my nervous system, in my emotions, or is it actually being held in my, my physical body and the connective tissues? Is it being held by a particular, armoring or contracting of a part of my body that's sort of anchoring that experience into, the actual bones and muscles that connect to tissues. So that's why I always talk about whole body, whole being healing. So, clearing the source is absolutely essential, but then also once you clear the source, you want to make sure that you have, practices that actually help that healing move to every level of your awareness, every level of your being, whole body, whole being. So, and then the next mistake that I see is that people are able to clear and they are able to heal, but they don't do the work of activating their higher selves. So let me give you an example. So, Hunter, thank you. One of my favorite stories is from Marty Seligman. Now he's one of the grandfathers of positive psychology, and his early work was with humans around learned helplessness. And he did some very well-known and respected research around learned helplessness in mice and the implications for human beings. Basically people who are continually exposed to trauma and how that affects them in levels of depression and despair that they get locked into. And so he was working with a client and worked several years with this client and was actually able to heal and release a lot of old trauma. But this was early in his career. And so he thought that with the healing of the trauma, that this woman would become more joyful and happy. But what he realized is that he was able to heal, the levels of the trauma, but she just sort of went to this very neutral sort of place. And that was his sort of aha moment that, oh, we not only have to heal trauma, but we actually have to activate happiness, joy, love, gratitude. So it's not enough, healing is only one part of the formula, but we have to activate. And that was actually the birth of positive psychology, and that's what put him in the direction of, oh, how do we really develop practices for happiness and love and gratitude in our everyday life, so that as we clear and heal, we're actually moving in and creating space for what he calls flourishing. So another example would be, with evolutionary meditation. We can wake up to our evolutionary mystic, our most fabulous, most extraordinary being, within 30, 40 minutes, within an hour. Yay, fabulous. But we have to clear the blocks to that. And so if we don't continually clear and activate and clear, then we don't get the whole body, whole being healing that is the promise, the longing of our soul. So, my invitation to you is, whatever practices that you follow. You've got a map now to understand that, healing at the big level is whole body, whole being, physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual. It is activating and clearing all 5 subtle realms of the soul, all 15 chakras, all 15 dimensions. And so whatever maps, whatever practices that you use to do that, fabulous. The way I tend to think of it is wake up to your evolutionary mystic, wake up to your fully enlightened, fully embodied, fabulous self, and then clear all the blocks that hinder you from living that 24/7. And what I want to say to you is the world, your soul is calling to you. The world, evolution, consciousness, the collective conscious is calling to you, is commanding and demanding that you wake up to your most fabulous and radiant self, to join the community of the evolutionary mystics that are already working in consciousness today, to do your part, to take your part. And, like I said, these are some of the teachers that I personally have studied, learned from and studied with. And there are many others, and there are many, many other evolutionary mystics. It is an explosion of consciousness. There really is a tipping point. Like I said, 94% of the world's population lives in the lower 3 dimensions, in the lower 3 chakras. But there's a tipping point where if we can get 10% or more to live in strategically the heart, and then have people move, more than 1% of the world's population move from the soul level, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, and move into the oversoul, move into chakra number 7 or higher, and really start to channel their avatar selves and their rishi selves, and really embody that, light of 10,000 into their bones and breath and every gesture and every choice, then we are going to see really, really dramatic and fabulous changes in our world. And that's my soul calling right there. That's my soul purpose. So that's really all that I have for our experience and our free content. So if that's all that you came for, then great. Then that's the end of it. I do want to remind you that I'm going to make my invitation in a moment. And for those of you who want to stay to the end, kaleidoscopic chakra meditation, the meditation, that sound and light and color meditation that I have used and taught for years, that works with dimensions 1 through 7, chakras 1 through 7, then please hang around and we'll get to that in a few moments. So imagine, for those of you who are on your own healing journey, your own enlightenment journey, your own manifestation journey, what it would be like if you had this technology, that you really understood it and could use it every day for yourself or for your friends or your family and your clients. What would it mean to you in the evolution of your own work as a healer, or in your own spiritual development, in your own journey? So introducing the Soul Clearing and Activation Certification Training. It is really for healers of all kinds, to add another, wonderful, powerful, profound tool to your bag of tricks. Or if you're, looking for healing, and whether that healing is in the body, in the heart, in the mind, in your choices, or in the spirit, it's essential, as you now know, to clear the source of all that, and then allow that healing then to move to whole body, whole being. If you're on the path of spiritual enlightenment, this is the technique that I use primarily. I use the evolutionary meditation every day to tap with and work with the evolutionary mystic, my evolutionary mystic, and the essential skills of the empty witness, the stillness of pure being, oneness consciousness, the sword of compassion, and the unconditional love of the Divine Mother. So, I work of waking those up and embodying them and sensing them most every day. And then I use the soul clearing and activation process to remove the blocks at any level that keeps me from embodying that. And it's just a slow, systematic process of clearing and activating, clearing. And then for those of you that want to really sharpen your manifestation skills, really becoming in alignment with the 7 universal laws and being able to set your intention and set a manifestation in motion and have it come into being with, unconditional love and infinite gratitude. And, whether you're manifesting something around health and well-being, peak performance, wealth, money, career, intimacy, love, soulmate, spiritual connection, doesn't matter. This certification will help you in all 3 of these arenas. So at this point, you've got a couple of choices of where you can go. I've given you my absolute best. This is, 40 years of spiritual inquiry and study poured into what we've done today. And, if take what you need, leave the rest, go off, thrive, prosper, do your best, find your way. Beautiful. Blessings to you. Or there's a second choice. I like to think it's the wiser choice. It's to let me work with you. And so I will say that this work is for those of you that are really willing to do the inner work to get the outer results. This work is not for sissies, because when you start clearing at this level, the universe says, oh, he's serious about that. She is serious about that. Okay, let's, turn up the gas here. I also want to tell you this is not a magic bullet. This is, some people, have spontaneous miracle healings. Beautiful. But it is a practice. I tap with my evolutionary mystic every day. I do a soul clearing and activation every day, and I usually do a manifestation clearing every day. Takes me really about 30 minutes to do all of those things together. Believe it or not, once you really learn it and get going, it's like, oh yeah, boom, 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 because they're awake and available in your field. But, it's not something that you do once or do something you do once a week. I mean, yeah, if you do it once, you'll get benefit. If you do it once a week, you'll get benefit. But if you are serious about it, you make it a regular practice, whether that's 2 or 3 times a week, that's up to you and how fast you want to evolve, how fast you want to heal, how fast you want to transform, how fast you want to manifest. But just know that it takes work. And, just to dot an I and cross a T and put a period on that, this is one of my favorite fortune cookies ever, and I still have it. It's on my altar, right where I do my daily meditations and manifestations and soul activations. It's none of the secrets of success will work unless you do. So once you find the next right step for you, the next step in your soul's evolution in your journey, then the challenge for you is to, okay, let me take the next inspired action and the next inspired action and the next inspired action and work through all the resistance, work through all the blocks that keep you playing small, that keep you, one of my favorite sayings, Carl Jung, one of the great grandfathers of psychoanalysis and modern psychology as we know it, he said, we all walk in shoes that are too small for us. And what he meant by that is that we all are addicted to playing small, that the world has demanded and commanded that we play small, less of who we are. And he's saying that it's time to kick off those shoes. It's time to expand and to grow and to heal and to evolve and to stretch into our most extraordinary, most fabulous, most enlightened selves, to become whole, to become healed, to vibrate at the highest level frequency that's possible for us. So I invite you to consider registering and joining us for the Soul Clearing and Activation Certification. It will show you how to clear the source of all priority karma, karma around health, wealth, love, spirit, and excellence. It'll allow you to clear the source of all priority personas, the source of those voices, parts, subpersonalities that keep you in defense, that are all based in fear. It'll allow you to then do the soul activation of all 8 divine soul energies, hara, heart, head, and heaven. It'll help you to systematically clear the source of all those toxic emotions that are stored in chakras 1 through 6 and dimensions 1 through 6. And then also clear the source of the karmic vows that are stored in chakras 1 through 7, dimensions 1 through 7. So this is a 6-week training. And training number 1, we begin the process of showing you how to test and verify how to read those energy signatures like I was doing through the clearing and activation. And then also self-muscle testing. How to activate the sacred symbols in all 15 dimensions. What are the symbols that work through, say, dimensions 1 through 12? What are the symbols that work through dimensions 1 through 15? And then how you activate them in the field, just like we did for you. What are the basic commands and how to use them? And then also, the images, the symbols that you saw were all gifted to me, downloaded to me by Spirit. It's like, well, okay, how do I take that and activate it in all 15 dimensions, but then how do I embed it with the commands so that when I use it, I don't have to spell out, so I say whole body, whole being. Well, but I've embedded into the sacred symbol that it's every particle, every cell, every DNA strand, every fire letter of 144 fire letters of the soul print, every cell, every organ, every level of being, physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual, all 5 spiritual realms, all 15 dimensions, all 15 chakras. Instead of having to say that every time, I can just say whole body, whole being, and it's anchored into the symbol. So it's like, how do you do that? Training number 2, it's then how do you actually start to clear the priority blocks for all karma, particularly around health, wealth, love, spirit, and excellence, and what are the commands for those? And, I demonstrate those, and then you have the commands. You can start, doing them right away. Training module number 3, clearing the priority personas. How do you check to see if there are personas blocking a soul activation or a manifestation? How do you then begin to, align them and transform them and evolve them to golden liquid light and clear the source of them? Module number 4, then we really move into, now you've shown you how to clear the blocks. How do we then do the 8 divine soul energies? And those energies I've listed here, so 128 frequencies broken down to a group of 8: divine compassion, divine creation, divine love, divine order, divine power, divine self-expression, divine truth, divine wisdom. So how do we activate those in your field, removing the blocks day after day that keep you playing small and activating these energies? And I just want to say that, it's like I said, this is a systematic practice. Most of you on this call are at least 30 or 40 years old. You've had 40 years to strengthen fences, and they are anchored in, they're wired into your being. So, we have to systematically activate our fully enlightened, fully embodied evolutionary mystics, our most fabulous selves, and give it this, it doesn't take 40 or 50 years, thank God, for that to become our dominant experience. And think in terms of how many lifetimes, literally thousands and thousands of lifetimes, and how much karma is stored in dimension 7, 8, and 9. Well, this process is the only process I know of that allows you to go in and systematically clear that stuff with intention and with power. And so, show you how to do that. Module number 5 is then how do you start to work with the source of these different emotions that are stored in the 6 lower dimensions, like 6 lower chakras. And just a little warning, when you start clearing the source of these, those emotions are going to bubble up to the surface. And your choice is to surrender to them, release them, let them go, or to suppress them and escape them and stuff them back down and have to deal with it again, and deal with it again with interest, to be honest with you. And then module number 6, chakras 1 through 7, clearing the source of genetic and ancestral karma, clearing the source of karmic vows. Most of the people that I work with, most of my students and my clients, have past lives as monks or nuns or priests or priestesses in different traditions, and so there are vows of obedience, poverty, silence, chastity, and secrecy that are stored in dimension 7, 8, and 9. And it's like, how do we start to clear those, not only from the 7 embodied chakras, but then from those oversoul levels 7, 8, and 9. So that's the training right there, the 6 modules that you get. Then bonus number 1, you get the evolutionary meditation training. Now I'll tell you, you get immediate access to this when you sign up. But also, I went into the studio last month and recorded a brand new version of this training. And thank you, Hunter, keeping us all safe and protected. I appreciate that. So I went back into the studio and I recorded a brand new version of the evolutionary meditation with my, my greatest understanding, my greatest, where I'm vibrating at this point, So you get immediate access to the old course, and the new course will be ready in about 6 weeks, and you'll get access to it too. Bonus number 2 is the Rainbow Light Body Repair Training. That is basically how you bring your entire auric field to its peak capacity. That's repairing any broken or lost facets around that soul membrane at dimension number 9. Are there any entities, discarnates, entities that are attached to you at the auric field? How do you clear those? Are there any vortexes? Are there chakras that are not working? They're inverted and they're bringing energy, negative energy, into the field as opposed to bringing universal source energy out into your auric field. Are there any wormholes? And so that course handles all of that for you. So when you complete that, your auric field is in integrity. So that, again, that allows you to vibrate at a higher frequency and be more functional. Bonus number 3, I'm going to actually record this. It isn't recorded yet. And by the way, bonus number 2, you get immediate access to the Rainbow Light Body Repair Training. Bonus number 3, I haven't recorded it yet. I'll be doing that in the next couple of weeks. This is really sort of the leading edge of my own spiritual work. The combination of the soul clearings and activations with the evolutionary meditation of embodying day after day myself has finally brought me to the place where I have the stamina, the strength, the presence to release old stagnant energies, old painful emotions, old experiences that have been stuffed and trapped and repressed and suppressed and escaped. Remember, I was an IV drug user. I was escaping a lot of pain. So it's basically how to be present to your pain body or your wounded self in such a way that is conscious and compassionate, and you can surrender it. So what are the 4 steps that I use to do that, and to let all this go? Then bonus number 4, you get the actual commands and the scripts that I use for the entire training for each of the different clearings and activations. So that's an incredible gift. When I did these trainings with my different teachers, I didn't get, all these things written out. I had to go back and listen to the recordings over and over and over and transcribe them myself. Bonus number 5, you also get the sacred symbols that I use. They're copyrighted to me. They were created by me. They were downloaded to me. So you get, the ability to use those for yourself and with your clients. You also get the graphics that I use, all the ones around the spiritual anatomy and the 15 dimensions and the 15 chakras. You have the copyrighted permission to use those graphics. And then you get a certification. So, you are actually certified to do this soul clearing and activation work. So if you were to get all of this, go to the website, and if some of it's not even available, all of my advanced healing trainings are $4,000 or more. The evolutionary meditation is $497. It's available on my website right now for that price. The Rainbow Light Body Repair is $497. The Way of Surrender will be $497 when it's recorded and released. You'll have that. All the commands and the scripts, and the graphics. That's $197 value. So that's over $5,600. So the total investment today is not $5,600. It's 77% off. It's for a total of $1,297 to do this 6-week training and to get this certification and to do this deep, deep soul work, healing. So to register for the course, you can go to www.tinyurl.com/soul-clearing, and that'll take you to the order form, and you can order and you can invest. The thing to know is that we start on Tuesday. We start in just a few days. So let me just go find the order form. I'm going to give you the extended link. So I'm going to put that in the chat. You have not only a question box that you can type questions to me, but there's also a chat box. So I'm entering the link to order in the chat. It's also where I'll enter the link for the State of the End bonus. There you go. I just entered that into the chat. So in addition to all of those other things that, the 6 weeks of training, all the different bonuses, if you order today, I've got an extra bonus for you. And that is, I'm going back and I'm re-recording my updated Evolutionary Mystic Manifestation Protocol. This is the manifestation process that I use for myself and that I use exclusively with all my VIP clients and my VIP students. It's how you create a goal and create a command around that goal and then set that manifestation in motion and then clear any blocks to manifesting that goal. And then what is the daily tune-up for that manifestation process? So, I'll be recording that. So for everyone that registers today for this training, you'll get that extra bonus as well. So this basically, encompasses, all of my spiritual work. You will have all the pieces to become heal and hold. Whole, healed and hold. Healed and whole. It's basically all of my work around becoming fully enlightened and fully embodied. At the evolution of consciousness, the evolution of enlightenment, the evolution of meditation, and then the manifestation protocol and the daily tune-ups. That really is the leading edge of my 40 years of work, and you'll have all that with this certification. The training does start this Tuesday, July the 11th. The classes are at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. All the training calls are recorded. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and then you have lifetime access to all the bonuses as well. So again, to access the link for tinyurl, you go to www.tinyurl.com/soul-clearing, or you can just click the link in the chat and go and register for the training. So are there any questions about the course or anything that we've done today? Please just enter that in the question box and let me know. All right, well, I'll come back in a moment. All right, so for those of you that have been patiently waiting to the end for the chakra meditation, then I'm going to enter that into the chat box as well. There you go. So I just put that into the chat box for you. So there you go. You've got that. You can click that. You want to bookmark it and save it. You know, again, it's not something that you do once, not a magic bullet, but it will give you, you know, it's like drinking a cup of bullet coffee in that it will activate your energy. It'll activate all 7 of your embodied chakras. Like I said, it will expedite your karma. You know, the way that karma as traditionally evolved is what we call walking your karma. It's basically life brings you circumstances, you handle it or you don't. And it just keeps bringing you circumstances until you learn your lessons. And sometimes, you know, you can live 1,000 lifetimes to go from one dimension to the next, to evolve from one dimension of consciousness to the next. So, you know, walking your karma can take thousands and thousands of years before you actually reach, you know, these higher states of evolution and consciousness with these new technologies. Now, obviously, in some of the ancient tantric traditions, or the Taoist, Chinese, or Buddhist traditions, excuse me, there were, you know, for the people who lived in monasteries and worked with their teachers, and, you know, there were definitely practices to expedite that. The technology that I shared with you is, you know, we live in extraordinary time and we have these new technologies. You know, in the ancient days, you had to go to a monastery, or you at least had to go on a meditation retreat and sit for weeks or months on a cushion before you maybe just might have an enlightened experience. Well, with evolutionary meditation, you can have an enlightened experience in, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour. You know, within a couple of hours, you are resting comfortably in the infinite stillness of pure being. Now with this soul clearing and technology, you know, using the sacred symbols to activate and clear, we can really speed up the healing of karma and the transforming those frozen blocks, that frozen light in your energy anatomy, and helping to return it to its true essence of golden liquid light. So we have that. So the point of that 7 chakra meditation is it will speed up your evolution. It will speed up your healing process, which means that the universe is going to bring you opportunities to heal. And things that used to trigger you in the past will start coming fast and furious because you said, universe, I'm stepping in here. I'm ready. Bring it on. And so the universe is going to say, okay, you're in the driver's seat. You ask, we delivered. And so just know that when you start toning every day with that meditation, you will evolve. So let's see if there are any comments or questions. I'm going to come to Dr. Jenna and see if you're available. You're muted on your end, Dr. Jenna, if you are in a good place and feel like saying hi. I wanted to just check in with you.
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon.
So you have done, a lot of work with me. Dr. Jenna is actually a certified evolutionary meditation facilitator. She did a 9-month training with me last year to do that. So congratulations, Jenna, on that.
Thank you.
But you've
Thank you.
also
Thank you.
done a lot of this soul clearing and activation. Would you mind sharing your experience of that part of the work and what you've noticed in your life since you've done so much of it?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, eternally wise one. And I see that because I are one too. Alan has really changed my life for the better, and it is true, not for sissies, because yes, as soon as I connected, and just so many of it's a wellspring, really, quite advanced work, clearing on many, many levels. I'm continually awed at your generosity and your commitment of service, because there's always something new and next, and most of the time, when we do sign up with you, it is included. So the body of work that is being offered today, I have not found it to the level and the extreme that is offered by Alan. And I'm honored to be able to have been connected with him, and as you all are, whoever is listening to this call now or will be in the future. So highly recommended. On so many levels, embodied, like Alan had talked about, in the body, healing the mind, the memory, the spirit, the morals, the ethics. It's just a broad widening, while it's also allowing for learning how to be grounded and contained at the same time.
Yeah. Would you mind if I share with the group a little bit of your story and
whatever you want?
All right, great. All right. Well, I'm gonna mute you now.
It's one person I will say that I trust. This man is my friend. This man has my back, whether I'm there connected at the time. I know that Mr. Allen is out there in the universe and is totally paving the way for all of us. So yes, go ahead.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Jenna. Okay, so one thing that I've talked about this whole body, whole being clearing and how important that is. And a number of years before I met Dr. Jenna, she was actually in an automobile accident and actually experienced trauma to her brain that really affected her thinking and her perception. And to her credit, and she's done many, many different kinds of healing. But what I really noticed is over the 9 months of doing the evolutionary meditation and consistently doing the the soul clearing and activation, that her brain functioning, her nervous system functioning improved, which allowed her to have more presence, more focus, not only for the work, but, for the rest of her life. And then, of course, there were suppressed emotions and experiences that she had to learn to deal with in a new way. So, the level of courage that Jenna has shown in her own personal healing is very, very inspiring. And then just to see how her life transformed in the last year because of the deep dive into this work has been really beautiful. So thank you, Jenna, for that. So any other questions that anybody has? If not, I'm going to just go through the whole thing again just because I can, because I believe so much in this body of work. So, again, this training is for people who are healers of any kind, who want to, specifically heal themselves of a specific illness or condition or chronic problem that they have. It's for people who are on a really rigorous and dedicated spiritual evolutionary path. And it's for people who really want to crack the code to manifestation. And in this training, you will be able to, when you're done with this training, you will be able to, for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for your clients, go in and clear the source of all priority karma, clear the source of all priority personas, do soul activations for yourself and others, activating all the 8 divine soul energies at every level of body, every level of being, clear chakras 1 through 6, clear the source of those toxic emotions that hijack most people and haunt most people and drive most people into playing small. Clear chakras 1 through 7, and clear, there are, karmic imprints, karmic blocks, frozen light at each of the lower 6 embodied chakras around different issues. We clear those, but then we really start to work with those karmic vows that are stored in dimensions 7, 8, and 9. Module 1 is really about how you start to test and verify for yourself. I'll show you how I read energy signatures, using my left hand and the sensations in the left hand, or also as a backup, self-muscle testing. How to activate the sacred symbols in all 15 dimensions, the basic commands for the clearings and activations, and then also, when you receive your own sacred symbols, how do you embed them with different commands so that you have shortcuts, so that, whenever anybody looks at the that symbol with the infinity, that sacred symbol, the Tribeca symbol with the infinity in the center of it, I already have embedded in it all the different commands and the levels of consciousness, so that when you activate that in your field, it's activating those already. And you'll learn to do that for yourself in your own symbols. Module number 2 is we really start to dive in how you clear the priority blocks and the karmic blocks for health, wealth, love, spirit, spiritual connection, excellence, peak performance. And you can start after training module 2 doing this for yourself and practicing. That's what I want. Practice makes excellence. Training module number 3, clearing the priority personas and the polar opposites. How do you work with those personas? What are the Here are the basic personas that I work with. The voices have unique and specific names, but it's really about the voices of feeling special versus the polar opposite is ordinary, feeling superior versus inferior, doing versus having, selfish versus caring, defense versus trust, control versus chaos. So those are just examples of some of the polar opposites. And you can see those voices at the level of the ego or the separate self, they're like on a seesaw. And so it's like, how do you activate them, merge them with their polar opposites, and clear the source of them and evolve them into golden liquid light? Training number 4 is that we really move into, we've cleared the blocks to personas, we've cleared the blocks to karma. Now let's look at activating these 128 frequencies of the 8 divine soul energies so that you are really starting to cook with gas. And I'll tell you guys a story. It's, I'm not used to talking like this, but I've been doing the basic evolutionary meditation practice since 2006. I did original voice dialogue work, the work of Hal and Citra Stone, back in 1992, 94, or something like that. But it wasn't until 2006 that the Enlightenment piece came along. And but I've been doing the soul activation and clearing almost daily, at least regularly, for a year and a half. And about 2 weeks ago in my morning meditation, at the end of the soul activation piece, after I'd done my evolutionary meditation, working in my evolutionary mystic, where I'd done my manifestation protocol, I'd removed all my blocks to my manifestation, and I was just wrapping up with my soul activation, and I had cleared all the blocks to the divine soul energies. And as I was moving into activating those, I felt a being come to me that said very clearly, and I heard this voice in my mind that said, "You're ready, I'm going to start working with you now." And then as I just sat with that, I had the sense of this primary being, and it was actually in a much larger circle of beings, but there were 4 other entities or beings in this large circle that were all going to start working with me now. And of course, being the skeptic that I am, I've cleared many discarnates and mentors from the auric field for clients and people that were not of the highest good and in alignment of the highest universal good, and certainly the highest universal good for the people involved. And so I went in and I, got as connected to source energy and the Rishi levels of consciousness and, check, is this being in service to the highest universal good? Is this being in alignment with my highest universal good? And I got an A-OK from source to start working with this being. And what I've noticed is I don't really sense the being or the work during any of my work until the actual clearing the karmic blocks to activating the soul energies. And what I sense is that I'm being directed to, and that specific karmic blocks in dimensions 7, 8, and 9 are systematically being pointed out, activated, and cleared. So not only are they sort of directing the karma clearing, but then there's the sense that there's this extra energy that's being they're giving a little extra juice to the evolution and transmutation of those blocks into liquid light. So, by raising your frequency, by activating these soul energies, when you reach a certain point of your development, the higher beings start noticing you. They start saying, okay, this person is in for the gold. So, you will reach a point where you will start getting help from the higher and higher levels of consciousness. Module number 5 is, working with the source of those toxic emotions that are stored in the lower 6 chakras and how to work with them and clear the source of them. And then module number 6 is working with the genetic and ancestral karma, which pretty much everyone has. I'll give you an example. One of my good friends and longtime friends and students and clients is a Jewish American woman, and she comes from a long line of Russian Jews, and talks about how even though her grandfather uh, uh, immigrated to America, and how her mother had a wonderful, and they had very successful, affluent lives here in America, how the thinking of small uh, Jewish communities in the Russian villages, they're called shtetls, still impacts and haunts her and limits her experience today. So there's the genetic karma that came to her, from her biological parents, but then there's also the ancestral karma. So we've been working at systematically clearing the stranglehold of those old ways of being and how they have limited her. And then, any monk, nun, priest, priestess karma, and clearing any vows. So we show you how to do that for yourself and do that for your friends, your family, and your clients. Bonus number 1 is the evolutionary meditation training. The current program as it is, the new program will be available in about 6 weeks, and you'll have access to that when it's released. Bonus number 2, the Rainbow Light Body Repair. It is about how to clear and heal for yourself the 617 facets, those golden flowers, sacred geometric flowers that make up your auric field. And some over time with trauma, those can be damaged, broken, even lost. And there is a healing practice and process for restoring them and activating them and reintegrating them so that they are fully functional again. And then as for clearing any discarnates, any vortexes, any wormholes that are draining energy away from you, so that your auric field is in integrity and intact. And so as you're building your divine soul energies as your frequencies, you're really getting the maximum benefit of that. Bonus number 3, the way of surrender. It really is coming to that whole body, whole being presence, and surrendering everything that is not in alignment with who you are at your most enlightened, in alignment with the highest universal good. It's all of the energies, emotions, and experiences that you have suppressed and repressed and escaped for years and years and years. So it's how do you be present in a way that you're not overwhelmed by it, you're not consumed by it, it's not as excruciating. So it's like you can be present to it and let it go. And the beauty of it is, in my experience, when I have a wave of energy, when I have a wave of emotion, it's usually gone in 2 or 3 minutes. If it lasts 5 minutes, that's a long time. It's a really big sort of, pocket of energy. But if I'm fully present and I really let go, I really release and surrender, it's gone. And it's gone for good. I never ever have to experience that particular surrender again. It's released to the universe. Bonus number 4, you get the written commands and scripts for all the clearings and activations that we do. So I can't tell you how many hours and hours and hours I spent listening to the recordings of my teachers and writing down all the different commands. Now, I've taken the work that I learned from my teachers and I stand on their shoulders, and I've really evolved this work. I've really taken this to a whole nother level, because most of them don't know the enlightenment piece. They do it as a healing piece or as an ascension piece, but they don't really understand enlightenment the way that I've studied it. And so I've really fine-tuned it and helped evolve it to the next level. You get the benefit of that. Bonus number 5, you get the copyrighted sacred symbols and the copyrighted graphics to use in your business, in your practice, or to use, for yourself and your friends and your family. And you get a certification of completion. So the combined value of the entire package is $5,600, $5,700. And if you invest today, it's 77% off, and it's $1,297. And you can make that investment for yourself, for your spiritual evolution, for your healing, your wholeness, for your enlightenment, and for your ability to really be an evolutionary mystic, to really co-create with reality, to manifest with the universe, and manifest in alignment with the 7 universal laws and with the principles of divine right order and divine right timing. So go to tinyurl.com/soul-clearing, and you can register for the training. If you register today, then you will also get an extra bonus training, which is my Evolutionary Mystic Manifesting Protocol. It's the work that I share with all my VIP clients and students. I do VIP days and VIP intensives, and students have come from around the country to spend 1, 2, 3 days with me. And we always start the same way. We look at what's their universal soul purpose, what's their 10-year soul and life legacy goals. What body of work do they want to leave behind? We write a command for that. We set that manifestation in motion. We clear all the blocks to it. And then we're reverse engineering this. Then we go to what's the 3-year goal that is in alignment and in complete congruence with that soul legacy and life goal. And what's the 3-year goal? We write a command for that, set that manifestation in motion, and then we clear all the blocks to it. And then we do a 90-day goal. That again, the 90-day, the 3-year, the soul legacy 10 years are all in congruence and alignment, so that everything is working towards the embodiment of your soul legacy. And we look at that 90-day goal, write it as a command, set the manifestation in motion, and clear all the blocks to it. So, all of my top students and clients go through this process now. And it's sort of the building block. Nobody in the world is doing work like this. So I show you how to make a goal specific and measurable, how to write it as a command, how to set the manifestation in motion, and then you have the process of soul clearing and activation to clear all the blocks to it, and then activate the inner soul energies you need to manifest it. You've got that. So the training starts this Tuesday, coming up, July 11th, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't make it for the first call, that's all right. All the training calls are recorded, and you have lifetime access to the recordings, and you also have lifetime access to all the bonuses. So if you can't make one of the trainings, you can always submit your questions. You can always ask something ahead of time, and I will answer it on the call and answer it for the group. So any last questions before we wrap it up here? If you feel like this is the next right step in your own soul's evolution, in your own healing, in your own life, I'd love to work with you. If you feel like this certification, the soul clearing and activation certification training is the next right step in your work, if you are a professional healer of some kind, some way, and you want to be able to do this for your clients or your friends or your family or just yourself, then I would love to share this with you. It has become, my, part of my primary daily practice, and I love it. And most of my students rave about it and their experience of it. how this soul clearing and activation body work came to be. And like I said, I've been doing the enlightenment piece since 2006, and I very quickly, you know, having done voice dialogue, facilitated dialogue before, once I got the enlightenment piece, I took to it like a duck to water. And very promptly registered to become certified in that body of work, and started doing groups here in Houston, doing groups. Um, so I've been doing this work a long time, and knew, you know, like I said, people can have in 30 to 40 minutes can have a full-on enlightened experience. Certainly within an hour, people are really resting in the stillness of pure being, in oneness consciousness, in unity consciousness, in infinity, eternity, vast spaciousness. So it's like we've got an amazing technology that lets people experience their most enlightened selves. Classic enlightenment that used to take months or years to experience, people can have in an hour. But then what I would notice in myself and notice in my students and my clients is like, well, okay, that was fun, that was good, that lasted, 3 hours or 4 hours or half a day or a day. But at some point, the ego snaps back. Those, chronic emotions snap back. Those, compulsions snap back. Those defenses, those painful ways of being in the world, those bad habits, those character flaws, all came back. Now, when you move into a state of enlightenment, your whole psyche does have to, reorganize itself. And yeah, there was very, very, the more I shifted, the longer I was able to stay. But there was always the coming back. And I kept asking the questions. If we have such a fast, amazing technology for experience enlightenment, is, source, higher self, is there a fast and easy way to clear the blocks that keep us from embodying our most fabulous enlightened selves? And this was the gift that was given to me, this body of work that I'm sharing with you now. And I have, like I said, been working with it every day for a year and a half, combining it with my 28 years of being a polarity therapist, as an energy medicine practitioner, my many, many years of doing EFT tapping, my many, many years of doing body work. It's like integrating that into my whole body. So that's what I'm sharing with you now. That's how it all came to be. So if nobody else has anything else to say or to ask, no questions, then once again, I thank you for your time and your attention. I so appreciate it. I value you. I bless you. I can't wait to hear about your grand evolutionary adventures and how you're progressing on your journey. Please keep me posted. Please share that news with me, and I'll do the same. So, last call for comments or questions. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. A pleasure and privilege to be with you. Thank you so much. You keep shining, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.